from the Ticats Audio Network. This is Ticats Today with Louie Butko.
Yes, it is Ticats Today for a Tuesday, July the 12th, 2022. Back at Tim Hortons Field. It feels so good. Of course, we were here Sunday, but recording the show here at Tim Hortons Field today, which is always great to do, as the Ticats getting set for Saturday's game against the Ottawa Redblacks. And keep in mind, it is a 5 o'clock kickoff here at Tim Hortons Field. And that means we'll be on the air at 4 o'clock. Andy Fantus and Bubba O'Neill have Tiger Cats pregame presented by Journey Rewards. And then RJ Broadhead, Luke Tasker have the call starting at 5 o'clock. And again, all this week with the bye week over. Great original content on the Ticats Audio Network. Of course, you got me, Ticats Today, throughout the whole week here. Monday to Friday, you got 5 full days of Louie B. We also got a lot of other great shows going on. Of course, the Coach O Show is back. We had a brand new episode of the CFL this week. Morielli and Hitch is going to be dropping tomorrow. There's a brand new episode of Speaking with the Enemy on Thursday. AJ Jacobit's going to be stopping by, and RJ and Luke back for Tiger Cats this week, coming up later on Friday. So remember to subscribe and like so you never miss an episode of this show or any other great shows on the Ticats Audio Network. Just one piece of news to get to. As before practice today, the Ticats announced they released national running back Malik Irons. In a statement, Orlando Steinauer said, "We would like to thank Malik for his 3 years with the Tiger Cats organization and wish him all the best in the future." Irons played 24 games over 3 seasons in Hamilton. He had 74 carries for 324 yards and 1 rushing touchdown. So Malik Irons released by the Ticats today. Coming up on today's show, always a great time when Steve Milton stops by. We'll get his thoughts on the team after their 0-4 start and still looking for that first win. So he's going to be by. We're going to hear from Coach O in just a second, as we always do on this show. We'll hear from Dylan Wynn, and we'll hear from Bralon Addison too. That's all coming up here. And let's start with Coach O. Here's what he had to say after practice today. And I asked him what he has learned about himself as a coach through this last stretch of games. It's sometimes easy to forget he's only been head coach for 3 seasons. This is his 3rd season. So I wanted to know what he's learned in what's probably been the toughest stretch of results for him as a head coach. Here's what he had to say.
I just think I've learned something that has been taught to me before I took this position, and that is that every year is different. Every year is different. There's no carryover from the year before. Yeah, you might have familiar names, but every year your football team is different, and you're going to have to figure it out. And then you add, and the whys behind that are personnel changes, the obvious, but then there's injuries and those uncontrollable factors. So it tests you in that way. It tests your whole organization, really, because we're all in this to win it, and so you're always getting tested. So it really matters what people are around you and who you surrounded yourself with, and who wants to go through adversity with you. No, I think, that we're dealing with people, right? They're not robots. They're not perfect, right? And sometimes when you're talking about energy, you got to model it. And that's where your leaders come in. And to think that, in a 2-hour practice, every single minute is going to be full of high energy, that's probably a lofty goal. But at the same time, we don't ever desire to be flat. I would say that it's about the production and it's about the execution of live reps, right? I'm not, body language around the building and preparation, that never has wavered. That's never been in question. That's never, you don't name somebody, basically your starting quarterback in the middle of free agency if all the boxes aren't checked, meaning some experience, lead naturally, all the things that we would want. So he brings those every day, and always has since he's been here, since he was a backup and throwing balls on the look team or the scout team. And so it's about going out on the field and executing. So we're just looking for that, but bigger than that, it's about game day execution. And there's so many facets that go into that, but ultimately, that position is the toughest one on the field, and it's the position that touches the football on every play.
So it really has to come down to the game itself.
100%.
Because that's where
Yeah, you want to see great practices. You want to see improvement on little things that ultimately will make the big difference. But ultimately, when the lights are on, that's for every position. That's when you got to perform.
That is the head coach and president of football operations of the Hamilton Tiger Cats, Orlando Steinauer. Also had a chance to catch up with Dylan Wynn after practice today, longtime vet of this team, one of the leaders on defense, to get his perspective on the 0-4 start. And Dylan Wynn many a times has said it's only a loss if you don't learn from it. So I had to ask, after 4 losses, what has he learned about himself and his team? Here's what he had to say.
We got to finish. I mean, anybody who watches our games knows that. It's not to our standard, and we're excited for this week to be able to, show different product on the field. We don't duck anything here, and we're just working and working and working. That's how we know. So it's a lot of learning early in the year so far, but rather learn early than late, huh? So we are going for sure in the right direction. We put in great work this week, and the details are there, but nothing matters until game day. So we're excited to be able to show who we are coming up on this weekend. Well, okay, so growing up, I always kind of thought that, I had a saying growing up, you don't know you're working hard until you see hard work. And so we've taken this mentality every single week. So it's not like, we've been ducking off. It's not like we've been doing less. It's not like we've not been attention to details. But, it doesn't, just little things you tighten up. You start noticing things, tighten up. Just like I said earlier, these learning experiences that are coming early, you learn from them and you find these holes. And so we tighten those up. And so the attention to detail has always been there. It's just the details get smaller and smaller as you're tightening other things. So it's not necessarily a huge difference, but there is, we know where the heat is, and we know what our team is and how we've shown out, and we're not happy with it, and that's something that we are working every day to rectify. My heart goes out to Masoli. I love Masoli. He's Barry, a guy I've known him for a long time. He's a teammate, and you never want to see somebody's, livelihood get, we pay our kids with this. We take care of our families, and I hope he heals fast. I hope he heals real fast. Definitely was looking forward to competing against him because he's a hell of a competitor. But they have high-tier quarterbacks on their roster. They have Evans. They just traded for Arbuckle. It's a challenge for us. It's not like anything's dipped down. It's not like really game plans change that much. Masoli does bring his own little tweaks, and not being able to play him, obviously I would be lying if I said that didn't change anything. But it definitely isn't a foot off the gas pedal mentality. We're not afforded that. We're going against whoever that they put out at quarterback brings their own challenges. And like I said, we all get paid to compete and produce. And that's a challenge we're coming into this week as a top-tier quarterback.
And that is Dylan Wynn as he spoke after practice day. And you heard him there at the end talking about how he won't get the chance to go up against Jeremiah Masoli. Of course, Masoli was injured after what had been determined a dirty hit, an illegal hit, as the CFL, an update on, we were talking about it yesterday, Garrett Marino. The CFL has suspended Marino for a total of 4 games. The league says it is its most severe total discipline ever imposed for in-game behavior during one game. And it's 3 separate suspensions, all rolled into one. He had a 2-game suspension for his dangerous and reckless low hit on Masoli, which resulted in injury and his ejection and his subsequent celebration. So that's the 2-game suspension. A 1-game suspension for verbal comments Marino made about Masoli's heritage during the game, which the league says clearly violates their code of conduct, and a 1-game suspension for Marino's illegal and reckless tackle of an Ottawa offensive lineman on the previous play. So, yes, Garrett Marino has been suspended 4 games, and you may be saying that's not enough, that's too much. Steve Milton did the math. 4 games is the NHL equivalent to 18 games, to an 82-game schedule. So just to put that into perspective, just sometimes you hear 4 games and you think you should have gotten more, maybe you should have gotten less, but 4 games for Garrett Marino. Randy Ambrosi said, this behavior has no place in our league. This discipline is intended to send a strong message that it will not be tolerated. And again, the cause and effect. The effect is that we will not get to see Jeremiah Masoli make his return to Tim Hortons Field on Saturday. One more piece of sound before we get to our friend Steve Milton, who was down here at practice today. Let's hear from Bralon Addison. Here's what he had to say after practice.
I feel like, and we as a team, we also feel like we've done some great things. We've been having a problem finishing, but, we're just trying to focus on the positive things, obviously correct the mistakes, but, we had the bye week. We want to come in day 1 today and clear all that. And, now we're just trying to go 14-0, and it starts this week, trying to win, 1 game at a time and just keep climbing, keep clawing, keep fighting. I would say it's almost impossible not to think about it because that's the facts. The reality is, we are 0-4. But at the end of the day, we said from day 1 in training camp that it was going to be adversity. Obviously, we didn't, expect to be 0-4, but we knew we would have some adversity when we met at McMaster for training camp. Injuries, turnovers in the game, penalties, a loss here, a loss there. Like I said, we didn't think it would be 0-4, but Coach O and the staff has prepared us for adversity. So, like I said, we obviously think about it as far as correcting mistakes and correcting things we did wrong, but, we just want to keep building and keep fighting. Just his willingness to keep getting better and keep fighting. Like I said, as a team, we're all 0-4. We've all played a hand and a part of that, and, I've been a quarterback before, so I know how it is when you're not winning. Everybody's going to blame it on Dane, but it's not Dane out there by itself. It's a lot of things that, as a unit, the wideouts, the O-line, the running backs that we've done to, kind of put some unnecessary pressure or stress on him. So, and Dane will tell you, he wants to play better. We all do. So it's not just Dane out there that's 0-4 by itself. It's the Hamilton Ticats that's 0-4. So the thing you got to love about a guy like that is, it's not going well for him. It's not going well for all of us. But he's coming in here every day trying to get better. He's coming in here every day not backing down, not fearful. Obviously, after games, he's upset because he cares just like everybody else in that locker room. But I can tell you, as a guy that plays and sits next to him every day, he's not ready to quit at all. He's going to keep fighting and keep getting better.
And that is Bralon Addison as he spoke after practice. And just a reminder, full scrums available at ticats.ca. And at the end, they're talking about his quarterback, Dane Evans, who we heard from earlier in the week. All right, very pleased now to be joined by the Hamilton Spectator's Steve Milton. And Milty, the Ticats 0-4 coming off the bye week. I know I didn't see this coming. I don't think you saw this coming, and certainly the players didn't see it coming either.
Well, I think everybody on the team, every fan, every player, every management type would say, you and I would say, it's unacceptable. It's unacceptable for the talent you think they have. Now, you get to a point where it's 0-4, you start reassessing stuff, saying, are they as talented as we think? Are we suffering from seeing them too often, which is we know what these guys can do, or we think we know. So, yeah, is this a must-win to you?
Yes. Considering Ottawa, considering it's going to be a third-string quarterback, backup quarterback, whoever it is. Maybe it's Arbuckle still, but this is as big of a must-win game as I can remember this early in the season.
I think so, and we're already at the point, I hate to keep bringing this up, but a Ticat team that's so 0-4 has never made the playoffs. And you have to remember now, if you went to 0-5, this was true when they went to 0-4. Is that it's very difficult to make it. Look at how many games you have to win and how you have to finish 500. Mm-hmm. Even now, it would take a month to get back to 500. A month to get back to 500. So hate to be so critical, but that's where you're at. And Orlando Steinauer agreed that when you get to this point, the last time we talked to him, is that at this point, you are what your record says you are. and that's enough evidence. It's a quarter of a season, just about.
Yeah, I mean, you were doing the math for something else.
Yeah.
Those 4 games out of 18, and we
Yeah.
did the math that an NHL equivalent would be 18 games,
Right.
which isn't the whole season.
No.
But it's a big chunk.
It's enough to make some kinds of judgments, and we've been making those judgments. And yes, a lot of players have been hurt, and that yes, they're starting to get some of them back. One would be Don Jackson, of course, and that's very important. Another one is Coulter Woodmansey, who they got back last game. They got him in, then he had a week off to work on to make sure he was healthy from having had a first game of the year. Those, I think, Woodmansey's return, just as his insertion in the lineup last year at a certain point, really, it was kind of a small turning point for the team last year, but an important one. Mm-hmm. They went with an offensive line, said we'll live with mistakes, and hopefully he'll develop. And we're supposed to see this year the fruition of that. Unfortunately, he got hurt, so there's been a bit of a delay in his development there. But that's a big thing, because it does solidify the middle of that line, as long as nobody else gets hurt. And we can't guarantee that.
Well, Kyle Saxelin's still out. He, of course, was the big deal on draft day, but Alex Fontana back out here, activated off the 6-game injury list. Looks like he's going to be the starting center. This is as close to a healthy, what the Ticats thought they were getting, offensive line, with the addition of a new guy.
Well, particularly from left guard to right tackle.
Yeah.
Right, so the 4 Canadians there with Chris Van Zyl at the right side. This is what they envisioned, and I think that we'll see where it goes at left tackle and what they have there, and how much they start using tight ends and those kinds of things, which they must. They've got to improve the pressure or the resistance to pressure. Particularly, there's two ways that they have to do that specifically. They got to be way better on first down, and they have to be way less predictable on second, right? So then there's another of sub-factors to that. Get those receivers open. If you're going to use a tight end that isn't going to catch the ball, first of all, you've got to get him the ball occasionally, so he isn't just a blocker, and so he does occupy a player that would normally cover others, or you're just trying to go down there with four receivers, and that's not the way this team has played over the years. It's just...
Last time you were in this building, Coach said something's got to change. This was before the bye week. Dane said something's got to change. You look at this roster, you look at everybody who was here at 0-4, who's back this week, not much has changed.
Punting.
That's it.
We'll see where that is. I mean, look, Ryan was good enough to play in Saskatchewan, but he was pretty vocal about it, and so were an awful lot of other Canadian kickers in the league who were saying, whoa, this whole thing's going to become a global position. And both you and I talked about it at the start of the year, and it looked like that was the way it was going to be here. And
4 global kickers?
Yeah, a bunch of global kickers, and because it works roster-wise. That's the problem when it's one of the inherent problems of all roster ratio type things, whether it's Canadian-American or global Canadian-American. There are things that happen that normally wouldn't, and it looked like it was going to be pigeonholed there for the most part to kickers, and that isn't just limited to this league. Take a look what's happening at U.S. colleges, and there's a zillion Australians kicking in the league because they kick all their life, and they kick a certain way all their life, and they can kick under a lot of different circumstances. Now, it hasn't worked out here. Ryan can do a lot of things very well. He can really thunder it. He's got good hang time, and he's a pretty good angle kicker. And the biggest thing is he's kicked a ton under pressure, and this is underrated, and I know I'm going to hear from the Ticat management when I say this, but he's kicked in a lot of win situations. He played in Saskatchewan, Winnipeg, and Green Bay.
And Seattle.
And yeah.
So, I mean, that stadium is uniquely situated in its way.
In its way, too, yeah. So I don't think the wind will phase him here. So that's a start of something, and we'll see what happens with place kicking too. I mean, they love Seth Mark when they had him here. I mean, he kicked that 51, 51?
3 for 3,
and one was 51 in the preseason. There just was no room for him because of the aforementioned global situation and ratio situation. Well, they're biting some bullets here, and part of it is because they're getting Canadian linemen back. And if they get Saxelot back, that'll help. But, Jesse Gibbons had he's improved this year for sure. And I think you can live with him as sort of the guy that has to play through the line for sure. You can at least live with him. Yeah. I mean, and maybe more than that
There's a reason
sometimes.
They kept him around.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
Yeah,
he proved something last year, this offseason, that made them want him back.
That's right, and I think, as again, we've talked about this before, we've been spoiled over the years with people like Revenberg, even Woodmansey, Sirocco, guys that developed, and you knew, even though they didn't necessarily get in the lineup on opening night, they were going to be there sometime in the first year, and that doesn't happen. You think it happens more than it does. It doesn't. It's hard to do, and it's a big jump from Canadian college ball, for the most part, to Canadian professional football.
Because that's usually where we see, rookies, year 2 guys. That's usually when, we've seen it a couple times this year with some of the guys that they didn't keep around. They had a decent rookie season, but just couldn't crack the line.
Well, there has to be a step, and there has to be a step. Yeah. There has to be progression. More people that have very long careers in the interior line that are Canadian linemen resemble the careers of Jesse. Jesse mirrors that more than say a Revenberg and a Sirocco do. Yeah. The trouble is, as fans and reporters, we get used to seeing that kind of develop, and we think every player is like that. They aren't.
Yeah. Dane. Yeah. Obviously needs to take care of the football a little bit better. He said that. 4 fumbles lost. It's not just the interceptions, it's the 4 fumbles lost. It's
a couple more that were recovered too.
A couple more that were recovered. How does he address that? Like what does he do? Or what are you watching for him at practice?
Self-control. Not trying to do too much. And quarterbacks will always tell you that's where they are, and Dane knows that from an intellect standpoint, but you've got to sort of separate. You've got to make sure that the intellect takes over at times there, instead of he was trying too hard on several of those. Even the balls that were deflected, they got to be caught. But really, a couple of those shouldn't have been thrown.
Put where they were.
Yeah, and then striving for those extra yards. That's where that extra competitiveness can sometimes hurt you. Now, on the one, he was going to fall down, and you don't want to hurt. You need to break the fall. So he probably, but you got to tuck that ball better, and you have to work on it. And I don't know how you do it. Do you sleep with a football? I mean, that's what. It's unacceptable. You just can't have those kinds of turnovers. And he'd be the first guy, and has been the first guy to tell you that. So that's what has to happen. They've got to protect him better, and I think that's on the coaching. Like to me. And this goes back a while. It's one of the reasons that the drive that Mazzoli made. This is a sidebar here. That Mazzoli made in the Grey Cup into the wind at the end was so good, because it's not what they'd done during the year. Because teams would come at them on that second downs and first downs deep in their own end, and they hadn't done very well with those things all year. Even though they had a winning record, barely, but they had a winning record, and that, so it's been an issue here of you're just making sure that they pick up that blitz they know, and reading the blitz that's coming on second down, and again, as I mentioned at the top of this little discussion, you got to do better on first down to make it so that the defense has fewer options on second down, because they can come from anywhere when it's 2nd and 8, and they can disguise it a lot better, and sometimes you just can't pick it up. Sometimes they'll just overload that one side, whatever side they decide to come, and maybe they send 7 against 5 blockers. That's pretty tough.
Mm-hmm. Well, lots to chew on there, Melty. Thanks for doing this.
Okay.
My thanks to the Hamilton Spectator, Steve Milton, for joining me today, and my thanks to you for tuning in, because we don't do the show without your support. We are back tomorrow. I'm Louie Butko from all of us here at the Ticats Audio Network, hoping you have a great day.
Ticats Today can be heard every weekday, and we would like to hear from you. Email us at gameday@ticats.ca. Have a question or an opinion? We want to hear it. That's gameday@ticats.ca. Subscribe to the Ticats Audio Network on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts.